How about that? 3-1. Woo! What's going on, everybody? We had a phenomenal day of basketball so far on this Sunday in April. Great slate. I don't know if you guys were watching all day. Griffin, I know you were busy handling down there up there, I should say, with Sea Dogs. Yeah. Couple great games. Celtics, they were able to make it another great game. 107-98 was your final score tonight from Orlando, guys. Before we talk about that, welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Show. I'm your host, Rob Haytayan. Join with me. I'm our two co-hosts. You guys know these guys, Seamus Zarlingo and Griffin Aldrich. Guys, the Celtics take a commanding 3-1 series lead over the Orlando Magic. Again, a 107-98 victory, guys. You know the drill here. Let's talk initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from a solid win. Again, playoff win's going to be a solid win.
Yet again, Griffin. Welcome to the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start it off. I wanted to say, like last post-game show, I was talking about how this game 4 is a must-win for the Boston Celtics, and that they did so. I thought it was overall just it's been a game that you've expected all series long since game 1. I mean, it's been honestly just the same kind of outcome, if that makes sense. They've all been kind of close games except for that game 1. But, you know, they've been tough, battled games. I mean, you saw it later in the game with Tatum and Caldwell Pope getting into it, kind of just a rough, intense basketball game, which is a good thing. But at the same time, I don't know about you guys. We could talk about it later, but it scares me a little bit how hard the Celtics have been hit. And it scares me because there's been a lot of injuries and like just the Boston Celtics have been shaken up from this series. So we can get into that later. But overall, it's great to be up 3-1. A lot of the time that means that the series is over. I'm not going to say it's over yet because it's not over till it's over. But it's great to go back to TD Garden now up in the series 3-1. And I'm happy about it. Was it the best game ever? It was an interesting game. Magic kept, sliding back into it. But the Boston Celtics, you'll see it later in the lead tracker too, kind of commanded it from that second quarter on. Like they had the lead and they stuck with it. But overall, it was all right game, and I'm happy about it. Let's go Celtics. It's time for 19. That's my initial thoughts.
Well, yet again, tonight's game, another muck-it-up performance by the Orlando Magic, and just time after time, a physical game. There has not been one game in this series through 4 games that has not been 1,000% completely physical on both teams going at each other at different moments in the game. And we saw the same again tonight, and we shouldn't have expected anything different because this Orlando Magic team, they are taking every shot they can get at the Celtics right now. And Griffin, I completely agree with you. I'm a little worried about how banged up the Celtics are becoming in this series. And Drew Holiday, we talked about him last game, didn't play tonight. He was out early on the injury report. Wasn't even a questionable, wasn't a doubtful, nothing. He was out last night. We knew that information last night that Drew Holiday was not going to play tonight, and he all of a sudden becomes a little bit of a question mark with his hamstring. We know hamstrings can be tricky. Now Drew Holiday sitting 2 straight playoff games. But just aside from Holiday, we see Kristaps Porzingis. There was a question of whether or not he went to the locker room. It turns out he went to the exercise bike. Still could be something to be monitoring there with Porzingis. Usually that's just some conditioning, but we'll have to see. Porzingis is always, regardless of if he has an injury or not, you have to be looking out for Porzingis. But then Brown and Tatum, they're just getting beat up in this series. And Tatum, he's taking on a huge volume right now. And he scored 37 points tonight, but he took 25 shots. Wasn't all that efficient with his shots. Now, he did get to the free throw line a ton tonight. That is what made the difference within Jason Tatum's game. However, Jason Tatum, he's taken a lot of big blows out there. So is Jaylen Brown. And you notice Jason Tatum, he came up that wrist. Anthony Black hit that wrist again tonight. And in game 1, obviously, it was KCP with the foul on the wrist. And then Jason Tatum falls on the wrist. But then tonight, Anthony Black swipes down on it. And Jason Tatum, for a second there, was like, uh-oh. I mean, he did it again. He did it again. It's not fully healthy, and he did it again. Well, he came back, hit 2 big free throws, and then he had a couple of clutch threes down the stretch as well. So still, Tatum, you want to be watching out for him, but he does look fine out there. That wrist does look comfortable when he's handling the ball and shooting the ball. It seems like he has all his strength there. But even Jaylen Brown, I mean, he had a dislocated finger last game. Dislocated finger. That is no joke. That's going to be a something that's sore on Brown's. Ability to dribble and just in general on his hand. And you just see some important players in the series. The point is here, they're getting banged up. And that's what made game 3 so frustrating is the Celtics lose by 2 and they had an edge in that game up 10 at half and they can't pull that game out. Now they have to play another physical game against this Magic team and tonight they did it once again in game 4 and it was maybe it could have been the most physical game out of all of them and it felt like down the stretch the Celtics thankfully they turned up their ability to run ahead of the Magic and you see the 107-98 win. The Celtics they finished this game on a 16-7 run near the end. However, for most of the contest, we'll see in the lead tracker here in a little bit, it was back and forth. I mean, the Celtics, it felt like the Magic were definitely playing from behind as they have for most of the series, but it's been the same themes. I mean, the Magic, they're creating themselves extra possessions. You look at the field goal attempt discrepancies tonight. That's what I keep looking at in this series because I keep making the point of the Orlando Magic. They have to create themselves extra opportunities in order to beat this Celtics team. They have to slow the pace of the game up and they have to get out and transition themselves and get themselves extra opportunities off of Celtics turnovers and themselves easy buckets at the rim. But you see the field goal attempt discrepancy tonight, 88-78 in favor of the Magic. First of all, 2 of these teams, both of them, they're taking a low amount of field goal attempts in this series, period. But when you're doing that, the Celtics, they cannot let the Magic take 10 more shots than them. We thought it was bad last game when the Magic took 9 more shots than the Celtics. Well, how about tonight? 10 more shots for the Magic. And those type of things will definitely make the difference over time when you're in a game you see down the stretch the margins are thin. There's not a lot of possessions. It's a slugfest. It's a physical game. Boston, they're certainly struggling on the offensive end of the floor. Thankfully, their defense has picked it up, and the Magic, you see, still not over 100 points in the series. 100 points exactly in Game 2, but not over 100 in the entirety of these first 4 games for the Magic. But the Celtics, I'll say this right now: the offense does not look good against the Magic. Does not look good at all, and yet hey, 3-1 series lead. Can't complain too much. A lot of people predicted the series would be over in 5, and that's what we're on the course for right now, going back to Boston for game 5. But the Celtics, they have to close out this series in Boston because you thought there for a second tied 91-91. The Magic, they actually had a chance in this game. And then all of a sudden you're looking at every single game in this series. And now you're comparing it again to the Pacers series last year. We're going, oh, the Pacers, they could be up 3-1. Instead, the Celtics, they advanced to the finals 4-0. That's how this series has gone a little bit, where you think about game 2, the way it ended down the stretch, and then this game tonight. The Magic were not too far from grabbing those games. Now, the Celtics were just superior, but the Magic not too far off. And within that, you see the Orlando Magic, they're now down 3-1, but they could easily be up 3-1 on the Celtics if the Celtics did not handle themselves down the stretch. But in terms of the entirety of the game, the Celtics certainly did enough shooting themselves in the foot in order for Orlando to even come close in these games. And give credit to Orlando; they're putting out a defensive game plan in which Boston is struggling with. But the Celtics, they're making uncharacteristic mistakes, mainly within the turnover department and just some of the focus that's within the game. I rewatched Game 3 earlier this morning, and it just was baffling how the attention to detail within what the Celtics were doing defensively and then offensively, some of the carelessness in which we're seeing within the series. It's definitely a little uncharacteristic for the Celtics from what we've seen. And again, credit to Orlando. They've stifled the Celtics, but overall, the Celtics, they just have to play a much better game. And I didn't think they played a much better game tonight, but in the playoffs, it's all about winning and losing. And the Celtics, they're the better team down the stretch. Again, 16-7 run to close out this game. And you're feeling pretty good about going into game 5 back home and their ability to close out the series, or all of us are feeling pretty good going back to game 5 and the Celtics having the ability potentially to close out this series. But tonight, again, it's just the win. The win is what I'm looking at. Everything else, not pretty, but in the playoffs, a win is a win, and that's how we have to take it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Win is a win. Did Boston do anything exceptional tonight? I thought they rebounded the ball really well. I thought they did a great job at limiting turnovers outside of that second quarter, which were improvements from game 3, in which they really struggled in both departments. I just think this is the type of series this is going to be, right? It's going to be a really slow-paced, mucked up, defensive-minded series. And Boston did a phenomenal job at just taking advantage of Orlando's lack of offensive ability. Tonight, what sticks out to me on the defensive end of the floor is the inconsistent shooting of Paolo Banchero, and I thought a lot of that was due to contested, forced mid-range shots by Paolo. 12 of 32 from the floor, 2 of 6 from behind the arc. So 26 of those 32 shots coming from the 2-point land. Boston held down the fort, forced them to be inconsistent. Again, let's look at the shot distribution real quick for Orlando. 32 for Paolo, 22 for Franz. That's 54 of their team's 88 shots coming from 2 guys. Boston tonight, kind of less so of shot distribution. 25 from Tatum, 16 from Brown, 14 from Porzingis, 11 from White. So still, Boston, the shot distribution tells the story. It really was a 2-on-4 out there tonight. I thought Boston made the necessary timely plays down the stretch. I thought they got to the free throw line. They took 32 free throws and they knocked down their free throws 30 of 32. That's huge when you got a series like this and the refs just have their hands all over the series and they're so okay with blowing the whistle. You got to attack, and I think Boston did that. I don't think Boston really forced much tonight compared to game 3. Only 31 3-point attempts. So again, it's a very uncharacteristic series, right? And I think this one is going to be an outlier compared to what we see moving forward here. What's important, Boston, they improved on what they didn't do well in game 3. It might have not looked pretty, but they improved and they got better and they made adjustments, which we know this team does, and they respond.
Well, yeah, I'll add on to that adjustments point. I mean, the adjustments were pretty clear early on. And in this series, we actually have a tweet for this. Well, how about let's throw up this tweet real quick from, I believe it's from Sean Grandy. Let's see what we got here. This is why, the glasses. This is why the glasses are important. Is this the one? Is this the, I think it's this one. Let's see. Here we go. Yes. This is the one. All right. Tweet early tweet within the broadcast here. So the Celtics have played 85 games this year. This is actually after, I'll disclaim this. This is after game 3. Sean Grandy tweeted this. So basically add 1 to all of these stats. So Celtics have played 86 games this year. 69 times they've taken more than 43s. They're 53 and 16 in those games. 16 times they've taken 40 or fewer threes. So actually, in terms of how it's applicable to game 4, so 17 times they've taken 40 or fewer threes, because the Celtics, they take 31 3-point attempts tonight. They're 10-6 in those games, now 11-6 after tonight's win. Finally getting a win in Orlando after a 5-game losing streak in Orlando, Florida. The Celtics finally win a game in Orlando, but now they're 11-6 in those games where they take 40 or fewer threes. Included in those 16 games, or now 17 games, they failed to take more than 40. All 6 against the Magic. Well, now it's all 7. All right, all 7 against the Magic in there, of course. And so in terms of this tweet right here, how this relates to what we're talking about in terms of the adjustments is, well, Orlando, they're taking away the 3 ball from the Celtics. They want to take the 3 ball away from the Celtics, and they're actually giving away open driving lanes to guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown because they feel comfortable with the size and physicality in which they have on ball with Tatum and Brown, that they can make things hard on Tatum and Brown going towards the rim and trying to get themselves buckets with just an individual defender. They don't have to do a ton of doubling because they trust their on-ball defenders to present enough physicality, to present enough size to disrupt Brown and Tatum. And so the Celtics, they're trying to take advantage of that in some sense, where they understand, well, Orlando, they're taking away the three ball from us. Well, we're going to drive aggressively down their throats with Brown and Tatum in particular. See Tatum getting to the free throw line, I believe 14 times tonight, if I'm not mistaken, for Jason Tatum and him getting to the line. So yeah, so tonight 14 of 14 for Jason Tatum getting to the free throw line, and you can tell the Celtics are just being very aggressive at trying to go downhill with those players and them finishing at the rim and getting free throw attempts that way. They're playing a very physical game right now. But just in terms of some other adjustments in which the Celtics have made, well, in terms of that adjustment, I'll say the Celtics are taking their points where Orlando is giving them their points. But outside of that, another adjustment we saw early on was Porzingis. He dominated the early portion of this game, and I'll spoil it right now. He's not our player spotlight tonight, but it felt like early on it could definitely be Porzingis with what he was doing early in this game. I mean, he was in double digits very early on within the first quarter. But in games 1 through 3, what we saw from Porzingis was a lot of high pick and roll, and he would come off flare screens he would come off flare screens from the corner or the wing to go set screens at the top of the key for the high pick and roll. And tonight we saw a lot more dives, a lot more cuts to the rim from Porzingis. There were a lot more slip screens from Porzingis where you saw, well, if the lane is open and Porzingis, if you have the ball handler at the top of the key, whether it's Tatum or Brown or Derek White, we saw Derek White was huge in facilitating for Porzingis, especially early on in that game. But if you have the ball handler at the top of the key there, what the Celtics would do is they send a little flare screen over to Porzingis, and instead of going to set that high pick and roll action, he would just cut to the rim. He would just roll to the rim, and then the Celtics, they would have multiple options off that because Porzingis, he would either number one, he would have himself an easy layup or a dunk, as we saw in a couple possessions there. But if a help defender came over, that's when you'd see the Orlando Magic. They would sag off the 3-point line, and then they would be giving Boston those 3-point shots. But that's where Orlando, they weren't trying to give Boston those 3-point shots. They weren't sending that extra help defender, and that's where Porzingis found a lot of his success going towards the rim on some cuts and some slip screens early on in that game. So that was an adjustment the Celtics made early to get themselves some points. And I thought it was pretty big in this game because the Magic, they challenged the Celtics throughout this contest. And then the early portion of the game, you could tell Brown and Tatum and the entire team, and just from three in general, the team started out 4 of 13 from three. They were just not in rhythm. And the Magic have made things hard on the Celtics getting points this entire series. And the Celtics, they were able to find themselves a way to get points early on in the game. And even more so, Kristaps Porzingis, he hit his first three-pointer of the series with 7:45 left in the second quarter of Game 4. He was 0 of 11 from three-point land in games 1 through 3, plus the first quarter of this one tonight. 0 of 11 for Kristaps Porzingis. He finally comes in and hits a three-pointer. We're going to need to see Kristaps hit a couple more three-pointers throughout this playoff run, in which I think we will see against other defenses. Kristaps Porzingis will be able to stretch him out a little bit better than we have with the Magic. And the Magic have just been super physical with him, but Porzingis, just in general, just to touch on him real quick, he has to be better, period. He in some of these mismatch opportunities, Corey Joseph, Gary Harris, he is actually struggling to admit physicality towards them. He's 7'3". These guys are 6'2", 6'3". They are not the biggest guys in the world. I mean, he is a foot taller than him, and he is settling for some of these free throw line jumpers where he just cannot get by him, where he's putting a body on him and he can't get by him. We all know Kristaps Porzingis is not the most physical player in the world, but some of these matchups he has to take better care of and just better advantage of because some of the shots in which he is taking in these situations, not amazing whatsoever. And it just kind of goes along with the Celtics offense as a whole being disrupted within the series. Because again, tonight, 7 second quarter turnovers for the C's. That's not great whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, that just to hit on some of the adjustments in Porzingis tonight, that was something that I thought early on was big in this game, both the adjustment for Porzingis, but just how Porzingis is playing in this series in general. I think if we were getting better productivity out of him, period, in these first 4 games in the series, I think the Celtics would be having a little bit better of a time creating points on the offensive end than they are right now.
Yeah, and that's why, just real quick, that's just why I think the comparison to Indiana from last year is so valid with this series, because against Indiana offensively could attack Boston's defensive abilities very well. Orlando, very strong defensive team matchup wise, can attack Boston's from a defensive standpoint very well.